So the obvious big news is that Vince McMahon has retired and left the WWE. There is plentiful more news. A change in talent relations because Triple H is now in charge of that whole area, and also new co-CEOs. Stephanie McMahon was acting CEO, now she is co-CEO with Nick Khan, meaning that within about the space of 2 years, Nick Khan has quite literally taken over the WWE from the ground up. So, this is spoiler warning. I am Tom Colohue, and my word, do I have a lot of news to share about the world of professional wrestling over the last few days. We're going to be going into a lot of detail over what has happened over the last few days, over the last hour, in fact, is just general increased detail as to exactly what has happened. Let's just say I've been bombarded for the last hour or so on my phone, on my Twitter, with exact details of what's going on, so there is a lot to share. Be sure to hit like. We currently have 13 likes. We have 18 people. Keep it going. And subscribe as well. We are on 1249. 1250 would be a lovely number to finish on, even though it's just one more. So if you haven't subscribed, please be sure to do so, because my word, there is a lot of news coming. So please jump in with your questions, and let's just jump straight in. Let us just jump straight in. Vince McMahon has retired from the WWE. The quotes that I have from backstage sources is simply the phrase, he jumped before he was pushed. The end result of the investigation from the WWE board is said to not be particularly positive at this point in time, meaning that there is a lot of things that Vince McMahon still has to answer which have gone unanswered at this point in time. Vince McMahon is one of quite a few people, actually, who are currently leaving the WWE. He is not the only person to be leaving the company at this point in time. John Laurinaitis is also out of the company and not expected to return. Now, I want to be clear as to what's happening with Vince McMahon before getting on to John Laurinaitis. Pardon me. Vince McMahon is leaving the company entirely. He is no longer expected to appear on TV. He is no longer expected to appear in backstage meetings. He is no longer expected to dial in to creative meetings. In fact, there is no plan for Vince McMahon to feature in any way, shape or form in anything involving the WWE going forwards. Literally, there is no plan whatsoever for Vince McMahon to be a factor in WWE programming going forwards. Literally, no plan whatsoever. So I'm actually going to type that. That's not how that works. Will you type, please? It's opening my messages and everything. I don't understand what's happening here. Vince McMahon has been under investigation from the WWE board for a couple of weeks now, and it is only increasing the pressure that he is under at this point in time. Vince McMahon has been under investigation from a certain subsection of the board for a little while now. The person in charge of that particular subsection has been Nick Khan. Nick Khan at this point in time is co-CEO of the WWE. Talk about a rise to infamy. Nick Khan has basically taken over the WWE at this point, and I cannot hide the fact that that is exactly what has happened. Nick Khan and Stephanie McMahon are currently co-CEO for the WWE with no intention for Vince McMahon to return. Let's just type that up. There is no intention for Vince McMahon to be involved in any way or return at any point to the WWE. I'm just going to put join now for the latest news. And that is not how you type the actual address of the page that we're going to. So what has happened essentially is that the investigation did not go in Vince McMahon's favour. There is no other way to put that. The investigation has not gone in Vince McMahon's favour. A large part of that, of course, is that the investigation was centred on accusations largely promoted by the Wall Street Journal, stating that Vince McMahon has been paying hush money to certain former employees. Now, John Laurinaitis is also named in this, and John Laurinaitis is also believed to have left the company with no plan for him to return in any capacity whatsoever. John Laurinaitis has been removed from the company with no intention for any impending return. Triple H has now taken over the entirety of the talent relations section. As I did mention previously, the meeting that Stephanie McMahon had before Money in the Bank with talent was to explain the new system for talent relations. The new system at the time was to come directly through her. The new system at current is to come both through her and through Triple H as well. So there is a lot going on and a lot of changes that have been made, but all of them essentially reroute to one simple path. Triple H is now head of talent relations. You can go around him to Stephanie McMahon directly, but Stephanie McMahon is co-CEO with Nick Khan. I need to stress one more time, Nick Khan is co-CEO of the WWE, still WWE president, and still the chief financial officer. So he's playing a dual role of both CFO and CEO of the WWE. The decision to remove John Laurinaitis took place a while back. It was roughly 2 weeks ago that the official announcement came out. Now, I have mentioned previously, as regards when Vince McMahon first stepped down from CEO, that there would be an announcement as regards John Laurinaitis. This is the announcement that I was speaking about. John Laurinaitis, immediately upon the announcement that he was going to be stepping down, was not expected to have any capacity to control anything going on within the WWE, and he has been removed from his post, temporarily still officially, but I would expect an official announcement as to his full-term removal shortly. As regards, as I'm seeing a lot from the questions, Sasha Banks and Naomi, this does not actually change anything. As I've mentioned before, there was an interest in negotiation with the removal of John Laurinaitis and the change of position for Vince McMahon. That has not changed. There is an interest in a negotiation. This is one of the main reasons why the actual release of Sasha Banks has not been made official at any point in time. Sasha Banks, to be clear, has not been officially released by the WWE. There are ongoing negotiations. Stephanie McMahon and representatives thereof have been speaking with Sasha Banks and Naomi's representatives to try and work out a system that works for everyone involved, that will not mean that anyone leaves the company. And that is true of all three parties involved there. Triple H being involved in talent relations is certainly a move in that direction. So amongst that direction and many other directions, Triple H is extremely popular. A large part of this is because a lot of the people in the WWE locker room at the moment are former NXT talent that have been managed in a very positive way by Triple H. A lot of people have very good memories of Triple H, have very good forward thinking when it comes to Triple H, and believe with absolute confidence that Triple H will see them forwards and see them through everything to follow. There is more news to come on this, so please do remember to hit like on the video. We have 16 likes at the moment and 48 viewers. Every little thumbs up makes a massive difference and I do very much appreciate it. And subscribe if you haven't already. We are on 1,249 subscribers. I just want to get to 1,250. I just want one more. One more would be absolutely fantastic. So there is a lot more news to come, but I'm currently falling behind on the chat, so I'm going to catch up on the chat and then continue with the particular news. I'll try and fly through it just so that everyone knows the news that is coming. I can see John Talks Everything podcast asking about the next piece of news to come. I promise you that. Hypnosis Bro says, in case I can't make it here, is an unexpected question. With Triple H getting this role and Stephanie being interim chairwoman, will we see Shane come back too? Whatever happened to him anyway? What happened to him was some backstage issues as regards his management style. He was removed by Vince McMahon. The original plan at WrestleMania was Shane McMahon versus Austin Theory, and this was changed to include Pat McAfee. Yes, this could potentially have included Vince McMahon versus Shane McMahon as an end result as well. Starling says, bye Vince, which is also fair. Buzzy says, hello everyone. Spider-Boss says, hello Tom. I hope this changes in with this change in WWE, Sasha changes her mind. It is very unlikely. Sean says, hello Tom. Michael says, hi Tom. Hello everyone. And James Stewart says, I think you'll have to accept Banks is gone. Not necessarily. Mario says, nice new glasses. Thank you. It's been a little while since you've come here. It's clearly because of the glasses, but I'm glad you enjoy them. Spider-Boss says, is it true that Heyman is in charge of head of creative? No, he is not in charge of creative at this point in time. And Sean says, is Nick Khan not president anymore? No, he's still president of the WWE. Dara says, hey Tom. Hello Dara. Spider-Boss says, I hope to see Bailey soon. It is very much coming. Sid says, man, I love pizza. It's basically the perfect food. Glad you're enjoying it, Sid. I hope you're having a great time. John Talks Everything podcast says Brock Lesnar has left SmackDown. He has. More on that story very shortly, as soon as I can get to it. Razar says, wow, Vince McMahon just announced he's retiring from WWE. I'm honestly shocked. There must be some crazy stuff uncovered during the investigations, because I doubt he would just leave on his own. There are more reports coming. More on that shortly. Also says Brian Alvarez also reporting Brock Lesnar has left SmackDown. Things are crazy right now. Things really are. And Brian Alvarez is absolutely correct. More on that story shortly. James Stewart says maybe we'll see a new creative style. Hit that thumbs up. It's going to be good. And James is absolutely right. David says I'm in shock. You and me both, David. Nobody got the advance notice of this. I know some people have said, oh, I could have scooped it. They couldn't. They are lying to you. They are wrong. Simon says, do you think with Triple H come back as head of talent relations, he and Stephanie can convince Sasha and Naomi to come back? Now, very soon as Triple H her mentor in NXT. She had a different mentor in NXT. She's certainly a fan of Triple H. By she, I'd imagine you mean Sasha and not Naomi, because you'd very rarely ask about Naomi. But I've already mentioned that there is still a negotiation ongoing. It's just a fact of actually making it happen that's proving a little more difficult. Ed, welcome, says, guess there needs to be a mod here, just in case. Just in case. Thank you very much for being here, Ed. I did catch up, by the way, with NXT earlier today and see your announcement. Spider-Boss says, who is your all-time favourite Liverpool player? Steven Gerrard. No question whatsoever. The Hogman says, apparently by Brian Alvarez. Thank you for sourcing. Brock Lesnar has left SmackDown. He has walked out. I do have more information on this. I'll get to it either in 2 minutes or as soon as I've caught up with the chat. There will be, I'm giving you a 2-minute warning to get to it as soon as possible. So if anyone's watching this on catch up, skip forward. Ghost says, what a damn 24 hours. The wrestling world is absolutely nuts. You are not wrong. You are not wrong. A lot has changed in the last 24 hours, and a lot more is due to change in the next 72. Michael just says, decency wins. I mean, you're not wrong. Spider-Boss says, a lot of talents in WWE may benefit with Laurinaitis out of WWE. A lot of people have been keeping quiet about John Laurinaitis, have been choosing not to say certain things about John Laurinaitis. Expect to hear a lot about John Laurinaitis from talent in the next few days. The WWE has made it clear that if you want to talk, you're welcome to do so. And by the WWE, I mean Stephanie. Captain Buzzy says, I can't believe what's happening right now. It really feels like we are witnessing a new era in real time. We are. We absolutely are. This is the next generation in WWE. It is, pardon me, it is here, it is now, and it is live. We are seeing, at this point, a new head of creative. Currently, that new head of creative is Bruce Pritchard. Kevin Dunn is also going to be a large part of running shows going forwards, but they are waiting for Stephanie McMahon and Nick Khan to decide on a new head of creative. Vince McMahon, who stepped down from the CEO and chairman position, kept his head of creative role. He is not at SmackDown tonight. He will not be running the board. He has not written the script. Vince McMahon is not involved in anything from the WWE going forwards. Sean, Brock has left SmackDown tonight. There is no guarantee that he will not return. He has not exactly jumped on a plane, but Brock Lesnar has walked out of SmackDown tonight. Wiggly is here saying, yo, 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 yo. Jaden says he's not in charge of creative anymore. He's not. Vince McMahon is not involved in anything in the WWE at this point. Mario says, Vince's retirement has me wanting to watch SmackDown tonight. It is the beginning of a new era. I expect to see it. And the fact that Titus O'Neil had to say what he had to say on Raw may have been a final straw. Simon says, what's happened with Brock? More to come on that shortly. Wiggly says, Vince jumped before he was pushed. Absolutely he did, as I did report earlier on Twitter. Spiderboss says, Vince retired, Laurinaitis out, and Triple H is EVP. Oh, hell yeah, big change. Rickon says, does this mean Vince has gone from creative also? Yes, he is. And Noob says, hello Tom, seems like today is weird. All days are weird, but in different ways. Hector says, Tony Khan gloating about being the longest tenured CEO currently is pretty funny in itself. Wrestling news will never have a dull moment. It won't. The last few months have been insane. Rob says, any confirmation or info on Brock walking out of SmackDown? More on that story shortly. In fact, no, I've reached my 2 minutes. Let's talk about that. Brock Lesnar, upon arriving at SmackDown tonight and realising that Vince McMahon was not there, decided that he also wanted to not be there. Vince McMahon has had his... Brock Lesnar has had his storyline pitched. He was convinced of the storyline going forwards by Vince McMahon. But Brock Lesnar, despite in 2003 walking out of WrestleMania 20... I'll take him with 3. Walking out of WrestleMania 20 by sticking the middle fingers up at particularly Vince McMahon, is one of the biggest Vince McMahon loyalists in the company. Upon realising that Vince McMahon would not be there and that Vince McMahon was planning to retire, Brock Lesnar is questioning his position in the WWE at this point in time. To be blunt, he is not the only one. A number of people within the WWE are not happy with the particular situation that we have ended up in, and they have decided that they do not want to be involved going forwards. Vince McMahon was the draw for a lot of different wrestlers, and the fact that he is not currently involved will be telling as to who sticks around. I need to catch up with the chat because we're falling behind. Spiderboss says, with Vince retired, does this affect the push for Theory? No, a lot of people in WWE want to push Theory. Ghost says, will he remain a majority shareholder? Is the search on for a new one? Majority shareholder is not something that is a job role. Shareholder is literally down to having the most money. Vince McMahon is still the majority shareholder. Mario says, Stephanie is caring to the stars. Not sure what you mean there, but she's trying her best to make sure everyone's happy. Michael says, who is taking over creative? At the moment, Bruce Pritchard and Kevin Dunn. Bruce Pritchard is taking over creative. Kevin Dunn is taking over production. We will see what changes in the near future. D. Freeman says it took outside media and not wrestling media to get Vince out of there. Yeah, it kind of shows how, and I'm going to be blunt here, useless the majority of the wrestling media have been. It took the Wall Street Journal to make this happen, and my God, did they make it happen. KJ says, what's up, Tom? What a day. But the million-dollar question is who's taking over creative? Bruce Pritchard at this point in time. Razar says, with Brock walking out, I wonder if WWE is going to release a statement since he was advertised to be on SmackDown. They will, but they will sort of protect him in that they will not announce that he's not there in the same way that, for example, Sasha Banks and Naomi were announced to not be there. Logman says, who'll be in charge of creative? Bruce Pritchard at the moment. Nelson says, is Stephanie still the chairwoman? Yes, she is also the co-CEO with Nick Khan. Wiggly says, just cleaning up my kitchen, so we'll keep it on the background by all means. Tommy says, is Vince done with creative as well? Yes, Vince McMahon has left the head of creative role. Simon says, Vince still owns the company now though as a majority shareholder. Will he now sell up? No, he will continue to profit from the WWE even though he isn't technically employed by them. Nelson also asks about creative power. Once again, Bruce Pritchard is currently head of creative temporarily until Stephanie hires someone new. Get the tables, you're right, mate. So what's the deal with the rumours of Brock leaving SmackDown? Brock Lesnar has walked out of SmackDown. He has not walked far, to my knowledge. I'm waiting on more information there. But there is no guarantee that Brock Lesnar has gone particularly far. He may be convinced to come back, but Brock Lesnar is a Vince McMahon loyalist. So I cannot guarantee that Brock Lesnar will be on SmackDown tonight. Expect an announcement from the WWE shortly. Thank you, D. Freeman, for a gifted sub to John Misenberg, to Vitali. I'd imagine there's more, so I'll let you know as they come up, because I can already see one to someone who hasn't been mentioned yet. Thank you very much for your generosity, D. Freeman. Hector said, I'd be willing to bet that Nick Khan, even in his wildest imagination, wouldn't have thought he'd be in this position so soon. Does this also mean that the TV14 scenario is dead, considering Vince is now gone? Firstly, thank you, D. Freeman, for the gifted sub to Dar Amazing, and in fact to Jeff Pereira as well. Welcome, Jeff Pereira, not a name I recognise, but welcome to the show, and thank you very much, D. Freeman. TV14 is still in the offing. It is still in the plan. Vince McMahon not being directly involved does not mean a change for that. Thank you very much, D. Freeman, for the 5 gifted subs. Latest has gone to Jaden as well. Thank you kindly. So the TV14 deal is still in the offing. Thank you, Dylan, for renewing for a 12th month in a row. Thank you very kindly for your generosity. So many people at this point in time. I really do appreciate it. So that has not changed as regards the plan there. Tom Talks Rubbish, welcome mate, how you doing? Ed Fries has renewed his membership on YouTube for a 4th month. Says 3 months of YouTube support, what a crazy day. But it's 4 months, mate. You've been here forever, because it did still roll over even while we had our monetization issues. So the plan going forwards for the WWE. Brock Lesnar has walked out. Vince McMahon will not be involved in any capacity with the WWE going forwards. And we will see how it actually plays out in the contingency. But Bruce Pritchard is currently in charge of creative for the WWE until Stephanie McMahon and Nick Khan between them can choose a new person to be in charge. Thank you, Dylan, for gifting a sub to Larry Bongo as well. We are losing the chat a little bit, so let me try and catch up. Bailey gifts 100 bits. Thank you kindly, Bailey. I really do appreciate the generosity from everyone. I really do appreciate that. Bailey helping to trigger what I'm guessing, if I click on the Twitch side, what I'm guessing is indeed a hype train, which is already considerably up. It says hype train incoming, but I believe it'll be on it. It's also fitting that it's Triple H's as well happening on that one. We're at level 3 already, Jesus. Thank you very kindly, everyone. Rob says, any info on whether Nick Khan has any fondness for Kevin Dunn? Or I've lost it at that point. Kevin Dunn is an institution in the WWE. There is no intent, to my knowledge, to let him go. That decision may come later. Triple H, to my knowledge, has never worked particularly well with Kevin Dunn. They did not work well at the Evolution pay-per-view, which has been the last time that they technically worked together. Jaden says, I didn't know about this until I got the notification of your live. Oh, well, I imagine that was a rough piece of news. Simon says, William Regal was Sasha's mentor in NXT. William Regal is not in NXT or WWE anymore. Megan says, I just wonder what could have been. Imagine if Triple H, Paul Heyman and William Regal were in charge of creative. That would have been fun. That would have been a whole lot of fun. We currently have 106 viewers across both YouTube and Twitch. We have 85 viewers on YouTube, but only the 25 likes. Please do remember to hit that thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm currently waiting on one more subscriber to get to 1,250. Can you be the one? I do apologise. That was a bit lame. Be the one. Christoph says, hi Tom. Wow, just joined. Just learned about the news a minute ago. What a historic date. You could not get much more historic than this. Vince McMahon, the father of modern day professional wrestling, has retired from the WWE. Simon says, SummerSlam main event is now smoked cooked. I have no idea what you're meaning. Hi, Megan. Christoph says, I'm happy for Triple H. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's definitely something worth mentioning. Triple H is now head of talent relations, a job that he has held previously and a job that he did extremely well at. Massive credit to him. He's fit, firing and ready to go in his own words. Jane says, who's in charge of creative right now? Bruce Pritchard is in charge of creative right now. Simon says, do Roman versus Seth versus Riddle triple threat for both the world titles? They're not going to do that. Ed says, well, Vince may be a trash human being, which is fair. He changed the way wrestling is, and none of your favourite wrestlers or wrestling companies will be where they are without Vincent Kennedy McMahon. There is absolutely no question that that is true, Ed. Thank you for mentioning that. We do have to give some credit to Vince McMahon. Also, we do have to be honest about the fact that the father of modern day professional wrestling may be a really bad person. The investigation has been undertaken by the WWE board, led by Nick Khan, who is now the co-CEO. I have questions. David Leary says, is Bruce Pritchard's job safe? As safe as it can be at the moment. Megan says, who is getting pulled from the show tonight to make room for a Vince tribute package? There may be a Vince tribute package being put together as we speak. D. Freeman says, most people who talk about or bring wrestling news are speculating the board report on him wouldn't be nothing. They would secretly put him back as chairman when time to report the next quarter earnings. And yet here we are. Technically, he has chosen to resign. As I said earlier on Twitter, he jumped before he was pushed. Simon would rather have Triple H head of creative with Paul Heyman. Bruce Pritchard is currently head of creative. Hypnosis Bro says, I just came back, Tom. What just happened? Vince retired. Brock walked out and apparently pissed about something. What happens to SummerSlam? What a day. I'm shocked. Brock Lesnar is still booked for for SummerSlam. That may change. Thank you, Kurswine. It's a nice shirt. I like to think so. I'm, again, losing the chat. I do apologise. 2004. Thank you, guys. Thank you, James, Simon, and Jaden for the clarification there. Jane says, do you think this is going to affect Roman's reign? Not in the slightest. KJ says, that's what I was saying. Some guys are there for Vince in a way. A lot of guys may be panicking at the moment with Vince gone. There are a small amount of people, usually people from sort of way back when, who are incredibly loyal to Vince McMahon. Brock Lesnar is one of them. The Undertaker was one of them, for example, but not there at this point. KJ, I've already read that. Simon says, SmackDown is a dead show tonight then without Brock. Not true, because to be fair, it's the first show without Vince in charge. I think there's a story to tell there. Spider-Boss says, Vince retired. Does WWE still want to push Charlotte? Yes, they do. She is still considered to be one of the best women in the company. Simon says, no Roman, Sasha. I've lost track of that. A lot of people not there. That's true. Spider-Boss says, Brock leaving SmackDown. Does this affect the SummerSlam main event? Not at this point in time. No. Kurswine, not a fan of the WWE until Kevin Dunn leaves. I'm going to go with Kevin Dunn. I think I know that you're saying Kevin Dunn, but I also can't guarantee it. Tommy says, with Vince gone, when does WWE hire you to be in creative? I love it, but I don't see it happening. Jaden says, I hope Sasha stays at WWE and just does a movie or something, then returns. Do you think that's possible? It's certainly possible. Everything is possible. Is it going to happen? Probably not. Elias says, finally that fraud is gone. Well, I don't think we can necessarily call Vince a fraud. John Laurinaitis, maybe. Sean says, since Vince is gone, could Brock no-show SummerSlam? Brock could no-show SummerSlam. He could no-show any show, let's be honest, but I don't necessarily see it happening. Yeah, I said, what a crazy day, and thank you very much for continuing to support. Jane said, is Ronda going to be at SmackDown tonight? Why wasn't she at SmackDown last week? Ronda Rousey works a limited date contract. She was not there because she wasn't booked to be there. Dylan just says, choo choo. Thank you, Dylan. Mario says, what I meant was Stephanie's making good for the stars by forging a relationship with them. That is great for talent relations. As I did say on the Money in the Bank watch along, Stephanie McMahon was backstage speaking about the new plan for talent relations. The new plan, as it was, is Triple H. Simon says, Vince still owns the company. The majority shareholder will still make profit of the company. He absolutely will. Connor says, hope Stephanie can now revitalise the women's division with more authority now. She has the exact same authority that she did have. Nick Khan is also a factor that we do have to factor in. Nelson says, who do you think has more power, Stephanie or Nick? Nick Khan has more power because he is also the president of the WWE, whereas Stephanie McMahon is simply the co-CEO. It's weird to say the phrase simply the co-CEO, but it is what it is. Jane says, do you think this is going to affect the women's tag titles? Will they come back? And they will come back. There is already a plan in place which did involve the binning of the NXT women's tag team titles, but that plan is not coming to fruition just yet. Spider-Boss says, the WWE Universe wishes Vince the best in his future endeavours. I think we all should, on the basis of he did that for a while. Simon, Brock versus Roman is not now off, to my knowledge. Unless you have a source on that, please don't be saying it. Jay Quick, head of creative right now, is Bruce Pritchard, with Kevin Dunn working with him, but Stephanie McMahon will begin the search for a new head of creative shortly. Jane said, what does the head of talent relations do? Essentially, everyone who wants to speak to management goes through the head of talent relations. They just work directly with the actual talent involved. Hypnosis Pro said, according to Brian Alvarez, Brock Lesnar said something along the lines of, if he is gone, I'm gone. As I say, Brock Lesnar is one of quite a few people in the WWE who are loyal to Vince McMahon. He is sort of the Undertaker era, as it were. He is one of a very small amount of people. Expect to hear more from Randy Orton going forwards. Jane says, do you think anything on the SummerSlam might change a little bit? Not at this point in time. It's a little bit too late for that to happen. Not guaranteed in any way, shape or form. Jake says, do you think Stephanie shows up on SmackDown? Not in any way, shape or form either. Cora says, Tom, did you bring enough McDonald's for the entire stream? It's just a drink, mate. It's just a drink. Just a drink. I also have a second drink, which Tiny Al's made for me. Just a second drink. Just in case. David says, Fox and NBC Universal behind this decision? Nope, this decision was made by Vince McMahon as a result of the investigation against him. Jaden says, I do think it's fair to put a video package. I won't begrudge them that. Vince McMahon has probably given more to the WWE and wrestling in general than anyone else However, it will still feel cynical. We currently have 127 viewers across both YouTube and on Twitch. We have 101 viewers on YouTube, but only the 29 likes. Please do remember to hit that thumbs up, 105. Hit that thumbs up and remember to subscribe if you haven't already. We're currently still chasing that one more subscriber that gets us to 1,250. So please remember to hit thumbs up and subscribe as well. We also have, 30 people on Twitch? Wonderful times, wonderful times. KJ says, no more Max Dupree. Do we get LA Knight? No, we get Max Dupree. He's quite happy with the name at this point in time. Michael says, well, this will be the most watched SmackDown in forever. People are very, very interested in this. Very interested. Simon says, what's the main event of SummerSlam going to be? Brock versus Roman. They still are confident that they will make that happen. Jay Quick says, is this the biggest news story ever in wrestling? Vince McMahon retiring, I do feel, is the biggest news story in wrestling. I've got to be honest. Vince McMahon is the biggest name in wrestling for a long, long time. A long time. KJ says, what's your numbers? Sorry, KJ, there's a lot going on right now. Do you mean like the rating or... Richard Hughes. Welcome, mate. How you doing? Says, tomorrow night's WWE house show in Bridgeport will be the first WWE show without Vince McMahon in charge since June 5th, 1982. Not true. The first WWE show without Vince McMahon in charge since June 5th, 1982 will be tonight's SmackDown. He's not been involved in any of it. Jay Quick says, will this end Theory's push? Nope, a lot of people in WWE are just big fans of him. Kirstwine says, fuck Kevin Dunn. Fair. Simon says, Brock's gone then and done by the sounds. Done not necessarily. They are still confident that Triple H will be able to convince him, but we'll see how that plays out. Jason Plant says, see you later. See you later then, Vince. I don't think we'll ever see Vince McMahon on WWE programming again, but I do think there'll be documentaries. Fortech, how you doing, mate? Says, does this mean Dunn is gone and I can come back to watching WWE? Nope. Kevin Dunn is still very much there and is still planning their show out alongside Bruce Pritchard as head of creative tonight. KJ says, no more than 2.3 million tonight. I think it will definitely get above 2 million. I think we're looking at the region of 2.2 to 2.5. We'll see how it plays out. A lot of people are going to tune in for something different, but I don't think they're going to get something different. Rezar says, Alvarez reported saying Brock said something about, if he's gone, I'm gone, in reference to Vince leaving. What are the chances that the SummerSlam main event might not happen and who replaces Brock? Chances are low that the SummerSlam main event will not happen. It would take a big kickoff from Brock Lesnar, but that's not impossible. As regards backup plans, Matt Riddle. So it would become Seth versus Matt Riddle versus Roman Reigns. That seems the most likely backup plan at this point in time. Spider-Boss says, apart from Brock, which talent is loyal to Vince? People who've been there a while, for example, John Cena has always been loyal to Vince. The Rock, as we know, has always been loyal to Vince. I'd be looking at Randy Orton as an example. I'd also be kind of looking at Roman. Michael says, do you think Bobby Lashley still gets a push without Vince? Yes. The people who are being pushed right now are not being pushed just because of Vince. They're also being pushed because of creative. Joey says, hey Tom, could we see Triple H return to creative power? What do you mean return? Triple H, to my knowledge, has never been that involved in the creative part of WWE main roster. Jay Quick says, do you think WWE has a backup plan in case Lesnar no shows? At this point in time, no. But as I say, I do think they'll just add Roman to the match between Seth Rollins and Riddle. We'll get a triple threat, which will be fun. Pardon me. KJ said, Brad Shepard said Edge isn't showing up on Raw anymore. Anything on that is another Vince loyalist. Is he? Is he? He's someone who's been there a while. But what leads you to believe that he's a Vince loyalist, and what leads you to believe that Brad Shepard is right? Only one way to find out. We'll see it shortly. D. Freeman says, wasn't Bruce just over talent relation after they sent John home? Also, don't both Nick Khan and Stephanie both have dual role, because Steph's CEO and the chairwoman, and Nick is CEO and president? Yes, they both have dual roles. However, the president has more power than the chairwoman at this point in time. Chairwoman has the role of leading the meetings. The president has the role of leading the company. Hello, Moxie. How you doing, mate? Dylan says, wait, did you need a source for the Brock, not a SmackDown? What do you mean, did I need a source? Oh, no. The source has been mentioned quite a few times at the initial report about Brock leaving SmackDown. I have had messages since. Mostly stating that Brock hasn't gone very far. But I do appreciate everyone still bringing sources into the conversation. Little Patty says, bye-bye, Vince. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. Oh, that's a line? That is a line. D. Freeman says, isn't Triple H head of talent and EVP now too? Yes, he is. Matthew Ham says, I heard Brock walked out. Sean says, speaking of the NXT Women's Tag Titles, the crew in the IWC took what Cora did offensive. It wasn't an attack on them. Yeah, the crew picks a fight with anyone who does anything that they consider to be a fight for them. Kura says, Brian Alvarez of Wrestling Observer is now reporting that Brock Lesnar left SmackDown after McMahon revealed the big news. We have mentioned this, I think, 12 times now. I'm aware of this report. Jared says, Tom, did you hear about Brock? Yes, I did. Jay Quick says, do you feel like this is the biggest story in wrestling history? Yes, I do, as Vince McMahon is the biggest name in wrestling history. Jared says, I've already read that. Simon says, more stories are still to come out in the Wall Street Journal on Vince as well. Yes, they are. Quite a few different things are still yet to come out via the Wall Street Journal. The Wall Street Journal did not sit idle. When Dave Meltzer reported that, yeah, we've heard everything we're going to hear from the Wall Street Journal, he was not correct. And a lot of information has come out since, and a lot of information has still to come out. I sort of mentioned earlier in the chat, I've mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, but I just want to point out the reality of the situation here. Wrestling media, for years, has been anti-Vince McMahon for these exact situations. Wrestling media has been aware of a lot of this for years. They did nothing. The Wall Street Journal stepped in. He's gone. I'm starting to wonder as to the validity of wrestling media. And yes, I'm going to be honest here, I count myself amongst that. Because I have people here, I have people watching, I have an audience. I was aware of quite a lot, not everything, but I was aware of quite a lot of this and have mentioned quite a lot of this in these chats beforehand. Certainly didn't shake the boat like the Wall Street Journal did. Larkman says, apparently now by Brian Alvarez, Brock is back to work. As I say, he didn't go far. Ed says, wait, but now we can't summon Shane or have Bad Vince on Twitch only streams. I mean, Bad Vince is universal. We can always have a Bad Vince moment. Summoning Shane might be a bit more difficult. Noob says a lot of people want Triple H to bring back the iconic Sasha Banks and Naomi back as well as want Io Shirai to get called up to the main roster. Yeah, a lot of people want Keith Lee, the entirety of Hit Row, obviously the Iconics, Mickey James, Danhausen, MJF, they want Kenny Omega. A lot of people want a lot of things, doesn't mean any of it's going to happen. Jay Quick says everybody wondered what would take Vince down. Turns out the answer was Vince himself. Spider-Boss says, na 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 na, hey, goodbye, Vince. Danny B-Side also says Brock has walked out on SmackDown. It amazes me how the story is Vince has retired, but everyone's more interested in Brock walking out on SmackDown. Joey says, I hope Bruce Pritchard and Kevin Dunn are fired. Both of them are leading SmackDown tonight, so they're not fired yet. Spider-Boss says, with Vince retired, could this mean we will not see John Cena back in WWE? It could. Doesn't mean it will. Gotcha, KJ. I suspected as much, but I just wanted to clarify it was about ratings. Hypnosis Bro says, Brock. How unprofessional, but still I am not shocked. Let's just say for the sake of it, if Brock versus Roman doesn't happen, what happens to Roman? Theory cashes in. I believe I've clarified this. The most likely scenario is that Roman is added to the match between Seth Rollins and Matt Riddle, leading to a triple threat between Roman, Seth, and Matt Riddle. He would win, by the way. KJ says, Vince McMahon erased from history? No. They're working on the vignette already. Vince McMahon will be celebrated in the truest of possible forms. James Stewart says, possibly Vince in the Hall of Fame next year or when he's dead. May. I mean, obviously the guy's done a lot of bad things, but I'm not going to talk about when he's dead. Hall of Fame next year, probably. You cannot argue, regardless of what he's done, you cannot argue with Vince McMahon in the Hall of Fame. I have just hit a new record of 152 viewers at once across both YouTube and Twitch. That's insane. Thank you everyone for joining me. Spider-Boss says, with Vince retired, does this mean Edge might not return? Why would it mean that? Can I just ask, why would it mean that Edge won't return? Edge didn't return because of Vince McMahon. Edge returned because Edge wanted to return. I'd like to see the logic there. Cursewine says, I'm happy to see it repeated. Fuck Kevin Dunn. I mean, I did not know you hated him this much, but I appreciate you repeating it, just so we know. Simon says, with no world title on SmackDown, what main event have they got on the show bar Liv Drew? They do have 2 world titles on SmackDown. They are both Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is still a SmackDown guy. Wrestler Fan says, will AJ Styles and Ciampa be added to the Miz and Logan SummerSlam match? Unlikely at this point in time. Not impossible, though we'll say a lot of people backstage not that high on Tommaso Ciampa. Not at all. Joey says, do you think Triple H could convince Sasha to come back now that he's running talent relations? I think he could. I can't necessarily say that he will. KJ says, the rumour of Brock saying he'll leave if Vince leaves isn't from any journalist, just Zero News making a tweet with no source. Not true. Brian Alvarez of the Wrestling Observer has reported that Brock Lesnar has left SmackDown. Brian Alvarez has reported so. Brian Alvarez, of course, part of the Wrestling Observer, with such big names as Dave Meltzer and Andrew Zarian. Simon says, isn't Bobby Lashley a ruthless aggression era Vince guy though? Being in the ruthless aggression era does not guarantee that you're a Vince McMahon guy. Devin said, is Brock Lesnar letting down his fellow WWE superstars? Don't expect to see that in the same way that you saw with Sasha Banks. Spider-Boss says, does Roman still retain a SummerSlam? More likely than not, yes. Bailey says, per a check on Wikipedia, tonight is the first show since January 7th, 1953 that a Vince McMahon, senior or junior, did not run a show under the Capital Wrestling, WWF, WWF or WWE banner. Says a lot that so many different names have happened. August 3 says, Brock is going to finish his match at SummerSlam and be gone. Can't see him no-showing. I agree with that. He would not no-show. He's not that unprofessional. But yeah, he'd wrap it up, roll out of the ring and just walk away. Moxie says, Tom, isn't it 2-1 for Becky versus Bianca because Becky beat Bianca at SummerSlam, also beat Bianca the Raw after Crown Jewel in a 1-on-1, but Becky only beat her at WrestleMania. So if Bianca wins at SummerSlam, won't it be 2-2? Very possibly, and that means another match. And don't we all want a 5th? Honestly, I wouldn't hate a 5th. I really like their feud so far. Kura says, according to a report from the Wrestling Observer newsletter, both Vince McMahon and Kevin Dunn were absent from last Friday's SmackDown tapings in Orlando, so no Dunn stuff either. Kevin Dunn is there tonight and is expected to be a large part of the running of WWE SmackDown tonight. Graham Pierce is here. Welcome, mate. Says, God damn it, does this mean Vince is going to do a podcast with Conrad Thompson? It's not impossible. It's not impossible. I don't want to sit here and celebrate that, let's be honest, but it's not impossible, mate. It's not impossible. Simon says, I know lived... Okay, you're speaking about someone else. Spider-Boss says, SmackDown in Boston tonight will be interesting. After all, it's Boss Town. I don't expect to hear too much from the crowd. Let's see how it goes. Joey says, this may be the best day in wrestling. A lot of people really celebrating this. Girl says, my local news just reported about Vince. Once news spreads to the local outlets, and yes, this news is pretty damn huge. It's got room to grow yet. KJ says, Brock's line was some derivative of, if he's gone, I'm gone. That was per Brian Alvarez. Fully aware, thank you. People are really excited about the Brock news. Simon says, Paul London on Rene Dupree's podcast said today that Vince allegedly sexually harassed Ashley Mazzaro back in the day. That is an unsubstantiated report to my knowledge at this point in time. But hey, that'll go down to the accusations being investigated. Sean says, never know, EO could be Maxine Dupree. I don't see it personally. We are still thinking that it could be Ginny. Moxie says, I expected this SmackDown or next week's SmackDown, we're going to get Butch and Ridge versus Drew in a handicap match. Makes sense. Very likely. After all, it looks like SummerSlam is going to be Sheamus versus Drew. Curse Wine, it says, I'm going to watch some baseball night, Tom. Fuck Kevin Dunn. Fuck Kevin Dunn. Ash says, Brock is bigger than Vince. Not even slightly true. KJ says, wait, when you mentioned someone wanted Keith Lee, Hit Row, Iconics, Mickey, Danhausen, who were you talking about? Fans. And so on. Tommy says, Brock was like Vince, watch this whole steal your spotlight. I don't think that's actually part of the play there, gotta be honest. Megan says, who do we think will be the first name to return to WWE now Vince has gone? I don't want to speculate per se there. There's a lot to play with there. I don't think people will return per se. A large part of the reason that the overall locker room is so small right now is Nick Khan, not Vince McMahon. So we'll see how that plays out. Playtime Wrestling Federation says Vince owns all wrestling. He's playing the ratings like Trump did for news. Just a big ratings grab. Not even slightly true. Pratik says, I'm not excited. Sorry to hear that, mate. And Traffic says, the number one thing that can make this all go away as much as possible is a good program. WWE now needs to step their game up big time. Let's see how that plays out. Eve, Right Girls of Wrestling is here, says, until we see how the stock market... Oh, sorry, I missed an early message. It's too early to say anything of note yet. Fair point. They waited till close of business of the stock market so more announcements can be made over the weekend and investors' fears can be calmed, which I think is a very fair point. There is an element of cynicism in this, but it's also an element of standard business. They did wait until it couldn't affect the stock market price, meaning that yes, the announcement formally, which we're expecting soon, of Stephanie McMahon and Nick Khan as co-CEOs will calm the stock market as regards publicly traded WWE. Nick Khan being in charge of the WWE, even though it's a joint in charge, will essentially secure the WWE's future for a while. Largely the economy in general, economists and the like, do trust the fact that Nick Khan, as a businessman, is going to be largely in charge of the running of the WWE. So thank you, Eve, for mentioning that. It's a very good point. It says, until we see how the stock market reacts long term, not a lot can be said. Very true. We can talk about what's happened, naturally, but as regards overall impact, it's very hard to read what's going to happen next. We have a change in the head of creative. We have a change at the very top. Things are going to change. We cannot say for certain how. So a lot of people asking about Sasha Banks and Naomi, for example. Triple H being there and John Laurinaitis not being there is certainly a big plus. John Laurinaitis was the guy shouting at them backstage, as has been reported by a number of different outlets and of course by myself. But we cannot read too much into it at this point in time. Pratik says, what I want to see back in WWE unique stage sets, that is not something that Triple H or Stephanie has any particular control over. Stephanie could exercise that control. We'll see how it goes. Moxie says, watchers get a 12-minute vignette about Vince. Don't give them ideas. Spadaboss says, does Theory's cash-in maybe failed? We don't know for certain. I do think it's likely Theory's cash-in will fail because ultimately if you step up against Roman Reigns, you're going to bounce off. James says, my point being he won't accept being put in when he's alive wasn't being crass. Okay, that's fair enough. Fair enough. I did suspect he'd be in the chair when it ends. We are where we are. Got you, Ed. Okay, thank you for also helping clarify. Pratik says, pay-per-view from 2014 through 2022 means nothing. There's been some really great pay-per-views in that time. I don't agree with you there. Moxie says, I think next year we'll get Vince and The Rock inducted. Depends on the availability of The Rock. Bowden says, hey Tom, been a while. Love the rebrand. Thank you. This was done by Sai T in the chat, who does a lot of things like this. And I honestly do recommend anyone who is a fan of this particular overlay and outlay that to check it out. Because, for example, when we do the SmackDown watch parties later on tonight, we have that. Little things like that. He's been very creative and I really do appreciate it. Joey says, Tom, where's the champagne of that? I don't have champagne. I have McDonald's drink. KJ pointing out Brad Shepard also said Sasha Banks was going to WOW. Seems unlikely. Playtime says Vince makes more news than the current roster ever can. Yeah, because he's got, 30 years to build on? Guy's over. Fluid, thank you kindly for the subscription. That's a hell of a name, and I worry that you may be more fluid than we let on. Thank you for subscribing on the YouTube channel. We do currently have 123 viewers on YouTube and only a current 45 likes, so please remember to hit that thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Oh, Bowen, that's a line. Wrestler fan says, Gunter versus Shinsuke Nakamura still happening for SummerSlam? That is still a plan at this point in time. Wiggly says, sorry, being busy cleaning the kitchen, so listen in parts. Can we just stop to just express disgust with McMahon? Yes, his contribution to the industry is immeasurable. The circumstances as to why he's retiring are just nothing short of disgusting. In any other profession or industry, he would have been fired or even had legal action taken against him. The man abused his position and employees, and it forever takes him. I cannot actually take a moment to do that on the basis of, legally, he has not been charged or convicted with anything. So I cannot say that. As a journalist, I cannot say that, and I assume innocent until proven guilty. You may not like me for saying that, and I understand that, but it is reality. Basically, I'm going to be the annoying person so that you guys don't have to. Ash says, Brock is bigger and more social media hits than Vince at this rate. Nope. D. Freeman says, since things are up in the air, no one really knows who's going to be in power for creative. Should people even listening to the Who not like backstage or who got support backstage, since backstage is now about to change completely? No, the creative team is still going to be in place. It's still very much going to be in place. The creative team will still be the creative team. So people who are high on, for example, Austin Theory are still high on Austin Theory. That's not going to change anytime soon. And I do expect they will still get the push, as it were. We'll just have to wait and see how it plays out long term. Zach says, my boy Vince really just dipped on us. Yeah, he got out while the going was good. Yeah, good. Simon says, apparently Vince Kevin Dunn was at Cena's wedding last Friday. News to me, Simon. Spiderboss says, I hope the booking of the women's divisions improves now. We'll have to wait and see. We need a new head of creative before we know what's actually definitely going to happen. Zach says, I hate when people hate on Vince. Without Vince, he most likely wouldn't have wrestling like it is today. That is true. That is true. However, he is still a human being. He's still an individual. And he still has, let's just say, his own demons. People want to be angry about that. I ain't going to tell them off. Joey says, do you think we'll see any big changes with creative now Vince is gone? Yes, there is expected to be a new head of creative appointed now that Vince McMahon has gone. Joey says, do you think we'll see... I've already read that. Noob says, Ginny is going to be Maxine Dupree. However, Io Shirai will be Asuka and Alexa Bliss. What's your source on that, Noob? I've not heard anything like that. Simon says, whatever we all think of Vince McMahon, personally, he gave us all our lifetime really great, very amazing pro wrestling as a fan. It's amazing to hear you say that when you've literally been laying into the guy because Sasha Banks isn't on TV for months. Tony just shouts, Sasha Banks! Which I get. John says, with Vince gone, maybe CM Punk will come back, but I highly doubt it. Yeah, because he's under contract from a different company where he's very happy. Rob says, wonder if Cody's trajectory is affected? No. Vince McMahon wasn't the main reason that Cody came back. We've just hit a new record for the third time during the stream. 171 viewers across both YouTube and on Twitch. For those people just joining us, hi, my name is Tom Colohue. I'm the guy who reported that Becky Lynch would be returning at SummerSlam before she did. I'm the guy who reported that Sasha Banks would be moving into the tag division at WrestleMania before she did. I'm the first person to report about CM Punk negotiating with AEW. The first person to report about Ronda Rousey negotiating with the WWE for a return. All of this, proven fact, right here on YouTube. If you want to check out any of the previous videos, just search, for example, Ronda Rousey or CM Punk, and you'll see them pop up in my videos way before anyone else reported it. So by all means, check that out, including, most recently, talking about Bayley. A new update on Bayley way before it hit the highlights of anybody else. So by all means, remember to hit subscribe, and of course remember to hit like as well. Every like does increase the possibility that people will find this channel and that we will grow. So thank you kindly, everyone who's already hit like, already hit that thumbs up, everyone watching, everyone who's chatted, asked a question. It's really beneficial. Ash says, regardless of Vince going, who would go over in the main event? Would Brock beat Reigns? No, Reigns would retain. Moxley says, imagine Riddle versus John Moxley versus Gunter versus Samoa Joe. I like everything you've said there. That would be fun. Hypnosis Bro says, Vince would retire, but Brock is the talk of the town right now. I think I took drugs by accident. Let me go lay down to relax. I know, right? Funny old world. Simon says, no Brock or Roman on SmackDown tonight then. Nope. Zach says, nobody wants Nick Khan as co-CEO. Where is your working for that? Show me your working. I'm not sure what you mean. He's very good at his job. Thank you very much, Mojo, for subscribing on YouTube. Every little does help, and I very much appreciate you dipping in and helping out. Thank you very kindly. KJ says, don't see him coming back. He's happy in AEW. This is as regards to CM Punk. Has no reason to leave. I personally don't see much guys coming back. Maybe if this happened before AEW existed. But guys have a home and are happy. And just because Vince is gone doesn't necessarily mean certain guys will fare better than their first run. First run. Thank you kindly. Eve says, everyone there is basically like, I'll believe it when I see changes that actually matter, and not small changes made out to be big changes, which is also a very fair comment that is very, very worth the comment. I really do appreciate you dipping in and giving us some really good talking points here, because a McMahon in charge is a McMahon in charge, and Stephanie has had elements of being in charge before. So it's a question of how much you trust the people at the top. Because the WWE has had the authority, it's had all of these different elements. Vince has always been the one and only. Now that he's gone, things will change. The question is, how will they change? Will it be big changes? Because to be honest, lately we've been seeing Nick Khan's vision, not Vince's. The smaller roster pushes for guys lower down the card like Madcap Moss, like Riddle for a while, like Rick Boogs. That's Nick Khan's vision. We'll see how it plays out, but ultimately, I think Nick Khan may have more power and more of a say than Stephanie at the moment. Traffic says, what's your estimation for the first segment of SmackDown? How big are the ratings? All I'm going to say is tell me when to stop. 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 Really? I'm just going to start again. Just going to start again. Just got stuck. Tell me when to stop. Just tell me. It's gone. Spider-Boss is celebrating the idea John Laurinaitis may be fired. Hypnosis Bro says, let's celebrate the fact we won't get Brock versus Roman ever again now that Vince is gone. We're getting it next week, mate. Moxie says, Tom, who do you see facing Roman at WrestleMania? At the moment, hard to say. The Rock is certainly a possibility, but he's not booked at this point in time. Hard to say for certain. Sid says, will this change prevent future large waves of budget cuts? No, because the budget cuts were mostly Nick Khan's idea and he is now the current co-CEO. KJ says, can't say who said it, but Zero News, who usually quotes journalists, said Kevin Dunn is expected to leave also and many will follow. There is definitely a possibility of cleaning house, but at this point in time, no house is being cleaned. Battleboss says, 22 years watching WWE and for the first time Vince will not run the show. Give me a hell yeah. Hypnosis Pro says, pop the champagne. Baylor says, ESPN.com is now reporting the Vince news under its breaking news banner. Simon says, SmackDown is a very bad show right now with no star power on it with no Roman, Brock, Sasha, Charlotte, Naomi there tonight. Ronda is probably the biggest star in the company at the moment who's going to be on SmackDown tonight. Wiggly says, no, if he is innocent until proven guilty, but nevertheless it feels as though he was jumped before he was pushed. I did mention earlier on Twitter that is exactly what happened. Joey says, I can't see Bruce and Kevin Dunn staying creative with Stephanie McMahon and Triple H back. Not many people can. Not many people can. Moxie says, my dream tag match in the WWE right now is New Day versus Usos versus RK Bro versus Street Profits in a ladder match. Basically, get everyone flippy, just chuck them in a ladder match. I'm not complaining. Gotcha, Wiggly. Simon says, do you think Randy Orton sticks around for a real long time now, for years, still with being a Vince loyalist guy? Now, once again, I think people are really sticking a little bit too much to the Vince loyalist thing. I do think it's worth keeping an eye on Randy Orton and seeing what he does next. He is very much a Vince loyalist in several ways. I don't think he's going to walk out in the Brock Lesnar style. He is very happy with his position on the card right now. Jody Beard says a new era begins in the WWE, which is not unfair. Steve says, wow, what a day in the history of wrestling. Hope you're keeping well, Colohue. Thank you, Steve. Thank you very kindly. Doing very well, in fact. Very well indeed. And this certainly has made the news. Wiggly says, also Vince may well have made wrestling what it is, but don't forget the hard-working superstars and peeps behind the scenes who also made it happen, and the fans. Absolutely correct. For example, you want to mention Hulk Hogan there, or... I'm going to mention Ted DiBiase instead. Moxie says, Tom, when Edge returns on Raw, do you think he, we, me, such an evil person, the darkest Edge ever, or do you want to see him come back as a pure babyface? He won't be a pure babyface, but I definitely expect we're going to see Edge in a babyface capacity against Finn Balor, which I'm happy for. Boss Pedal says, Brock Lesnar says he's out. Time for a younger, more entertaining big guy. Ryback is back, baby. I hate you, Boss Pedal, and everything you stand for. Just want to be clear on that. KJ says, Max Dupree is not a SmackDown tonight from Zero News. Quote from I don't know. I appreciate you at least mentioning that you don't have a source on that. I appreciate that. That's a good thing. So it's never a bad thing to bring news in, but as you guys know, it's important to me that we source our information. I want to make sure that we're as well informed as we can be. So anything that's not sourced, I'm going to basically reject. Eve says, 22 years in the business. I'm aware of your pedigree, I will say that. I've watched quite a few. I'd hope I'd be able to say some logical things by now, and you're welcome, pal. First time I've seen you come up on my recommended. Congrats on setting new records. Thank you kindly, appreciate that. Always good to know that I'm popping up on new recommended, and thank you very much for jumping in and joining the conversation. I really do appreciate it. Spider-Boss says, I just realised that Sasha had few matches this year. Well, she's not been there for a while, so it's hard to say. Steve says, will the new era in WWE be PG or TV-14? Hard to say. This may change with the lack of Vince. Vince McMahon was the reason we had the Attitude Era. Just gonna be brutally honest there. The reason for the Attitude Era was Vince McMahon playing catch-up. Traffic says 150 people watching on YouTube, only 51 likes. Remember to push that button. This guy out here reading every single message. I'm trying my best. I have missed a few, and I do apologize for that. As we move really quickly, like there's 143 people right now. The messages are moving really quickly, so I'm trying to keep up the best I can. But I do appreciate that traffic. It means a lot to me that we're able to encourage growth, as it were. I'm trying to grow, but I'm not necessarily too focused on that. I have a full-time day job. I do okay. This is mostly a hobby, as it were. I get the information I get. If I'm not the most well-connected guy in the world, in no way, shape or form. There are people who are more connected than me. I don't pretend otherwise. I'm not a hashtag scoopster, as it were, but I try and share what I know and just talk about wrestling, because wrestling is a wild, wild world right now. So, yeah, I appreciate the support there. Loud and clear, Ed. KJ says, here's some actual good news. Liv Morgan now has side plays posted on WWE's Instagram. It's about goddamn time. Simon says the SmackDown Women's Division is now dead other than Liv and Ronda. Charlotte. Kura says, isn't it boiling hot in the UK? Has been for Monday and Tuesday, not so much right now. Moxie wants Randy Orton versus Gunter. Not as exciting for me as Gunter versus Roman. Or Gunter versus Samoa Joe. Moxie says Finn Balor versus Daniel Bryan. Don't know why he says that. They're in different companies. Thomas Phipps is here, says, feels like I've missed a lot today. Seems so, Thomas, unfortunately. What I will say, and while I've got all of you here, at current, there are free channel memberships. So that's free, as in no money, channel memberships currently sitting in limbo on the YouTube side. If you've opted in, the opt-in option is at the top of the live chat. If you've opted in, you will get, if you're one of the first 3 people to opt in, I should say, you will get a absolutely free channel membership, courtesy of our very own FIFA Connor, who did gift 5 channel memberships. I think it was last week during the SmackDown watch party. There are 3 that have not been collected so far, so they're currently waiting in limbo for anyone who opts in. They will basically go straight to you. You don't need to put in any credit card information. You don't need to put anything in. You'll just get the free channel membership for a month. I'll get a slight payment, which will help me with the growth of the channel, and it'll cost you absolutely nothing and will be cancelled immediately after the end of the month. KJ says, speaking of changes, you'll have to realise as far as creative and the product, I wouldn't expect anything huge tonight. I'd wait for after SummerSlam. Completely agree, KJ. It's a very fair comment. They will sort of stay, as it were, at this point. They'll stay the course until we get to the point where they can start changing things. Spider Boss says, Oh, one sec. Yep. Spider Boss says, I wonder who will be the one to beat Roman for the world title. I'm still looking at Seth. I'm still looking at Drew. A horse with no name says, people saying Brock Lesnar walked out. Is that true? Yes, he walked out. He hasn't gone very far to my knowledge, so he could certainly come back, but he has walked out. Sai, welcome mate, says, I want the first promo on SmackDown tonight to include the words wrestling, belt and hospital and all other banned words. How dare you? To local medical facility. It's sports entertainment and it's championship. Thomas says, I'm excited to see how the creative looks now. At the moment, it's still Bruce Pritchard. Bruce Pritchard and Kevin Dunn are leading SmackDown tonight. Stephanie McMahon and Nick Khan will be starting to look for someone new going forwards. KJ says, Brian Alvarez said they have a backup plan for Roman at SummerSlam. I may have already mentioned it. The Lions Raw broadcast little. Says, about time the old bastard retired. I mean, he's 77. He's been doing it for a long time. Bit rough, but you're entitled to your opinion. KJ says, saying WWE doesn't have Roman, Brock, Banks, etc. is an understatement. It's been like that just like last week. They've managed to make SmackDown entertaining. They are missing in draw power, but it's still a fun show. I'm not angry at it. Thank you, Ed. Thank you very much for helping to promote Eve there. Always very appreciative of Eve dropping in, and always very appreciative of you, Ed, for doing what I can't right now with the amount of chat going on and giving some love back. Always appreciate that, man. Mojo says, do you think there will be a new Vince McMahon controversy? Maybe Vince doing something really big and bad again that has made him to retire. We'll wait and see what comes up next. The investigations are still ongoing from the WWE board. The Wall Street Journal have not finished. That's all I can say at this point in time. Wrestler Fan says, will AJ Styles, Kevin Owens, Ezekiel even be appearing on SummerSlam? At this point in time, no, none of them will be. Kevin Owens is still technically carrying at least a slight injury. As regards AJ Styles, I don't think they really know what to do with him right now. I really don't. Noob says, I would definitely see Edge as an anti-hero. Finn Balor's more of an anti-hero right now. I think he may get the preference. Spider-Boss says, Sasha should ask $30,000 for every time the USA media made reports using her name. That's not even slightly how it works. Not even slightly how it works. But you are entitled to your opinion there. Sean says, did you see the report from Fightful that Sami is dealing with a legitimate injury? I did. It kind of makes sense. Particularly with the way he was protected recently. I don't think we're going to see Sami off our screens. He'll still be involved. There's no real need. There's no real need, as it were, for Sami to be off screen. I'm excited to see him return because ultimately Sami Zayn. He's very good. Spider-Boss says, who wins at SummerSlam, Finn or Edge? There's no match at the moment announced between Finn and Edge. Let's wait and see how it goes out. Gotcha, KJ. Understood. Gotcha. Moxie wants Edge versus Gunter. Says Finn should beat Edge because Finn needs a rub more than Edge does. I agree. Also wants Damian Priest versus Gunter, which I'm also excited about. Thomas Phipps says, any idea who will be head of creative? Bruce Pritchard. Bruce Pritchard will be head of creative going forwards until they have someone new. James Gentry says, I don't fully believe Vince doesn't have any stroke until he has zero ownership or stake in the company. Very fair comment. That is a very, very fair comment. Vince McMahon is one of those people who is a majority shareholder for sure. He does definitely have some, if you'll forgive me the pun, stroke in the company. However, let's just say Nick Khan won't be led. So we'll see if Stephanie McMahon will be. Simon says pro wrestling is like the Wild West. Lately, yeah. Lately it's been insane. Claire Davies says it's been confirmed Triple H is EVP of talent, so Triple H is taking over. Taking over is a bit of an overstatement. Nick Khan is taking over, but Triple H has certainly had himself a promotion to where he was previously. Sean says, speaking of Liv, she is still shown on the Raw roster on WWE website. Yep, because it was a real late decision and they haven't caught up yet. Fun. Says maybe Vince shows up in AEW, takes over it and creates his new creation to kill off his old creation in WWE. Once again, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. Be a bit Vince Russo though. Go says if they can't get Brock, who would even make sense at this point? Maybe Rollins, but then Riddle gets dropped from the card. As I mentioned, I think it's certainly a possibility if we can have Roman versus Seth versus Riddle. Damien says Johnny Ace is now gone. I don't believe anyone has reported that he's definitively gone, though I do know Fightful have reported that maybe he's gone, which is not really a report, but it is what we have. Thomas Phipps says, is the backup Seth? Good question. KJ says, who would you have replace Brock at SummerSlam if you could choose? Seth and Riddle. I'd absolutely go triple threat. KJ says, no more Brock. Goldberg? There was a report recently that Goldberg is still under contract to the WWE. And I just want to say very clearly, Goldberg is not still under contract to the WWE. He's not. That's not true. Don't get me wrong, there's every possibility that at some point they'll reach out. He's not. That's not a thing. JJ says, now that Vince is gone, do you think we can finally get an Evolution 2? Nope. The reason for Evolution 2 was because women could not wrestle in Saudi Arabia. Now that women can wrestle in Saudi Arabia, the WWE do not believe for even a second that they need an all-women's pay-per-view. I don't agree with that. I really like the Evolution pay-per-view, but that is what they believe. Rocky says, but Tom, if you think about it, it's not over yet. Unfortunately, he's still head of creative. Nope, he's not. He's gone. He is not going to have any involvement in WWE going forwards beyond his role as majority shareholder. Now, admittedly, as majority shareholder, he gets a lot of say in business decisions. Creative decisions, not so much. Acting head of creative as we speak is Bruce Pritchard, with the firm belief that Stephanie McMahon and Nick Khan will be choosing a new person to be in charge of creative shortly. Spider-Boss says, if Finn versus Edge happens, I see Finn winning with help of Damian Priest. And I absolutely agree. That'd be a damn good call. Damn good call. Kuro says, a source in WWE tells WrestlingNews.co that Goldberg is being considered as a replacement for Brock Lesnar at WWE Summerslam. Of course they say that, There is a reason not many people actually track WrestlingNews.co. WrestlingNews.co are also the ones that said Randy Orton would be WWE champion after punting Ric Flair. They're also the ones who said that Brock Lesnar would be beating Roman at WrestleTalk. There's so much that they say. I encourage you all to go back through all of the exclusive WrestlingNews.co reports and see how many of them are actually true in the benefit of hindsight. In fact, as a general rule, pick any wrestling journalist, and go back through their reports with the benefit of hindsight, but don't look on their websites. Look on other websites who have quoted them, who have backlinked them, who have, for example, shown what they've reported, and the link to their website curiously no longer works. It's always worth double checking. That's all I'm saying. Spider-Boss says no more legends at Crown Jewel, right? Yeah, it'll work out. They'll find their legends. They always do. KJ says WWE doesn't update rosters on WWE.com or the app. Not necessarily true, but certainly limited numbers. Rocky says the same thing about head of creative. He's not head of creative. He's not. Danny B says let's hope Cody is safe. Why would Cody be unsafe? I don't understand. Chad says Vince should have retired 12 years ago. Kuroda says source me. What am I sourcing you for? Rocky says does this mean Roman will lose the title at SummerSlam? Why would it mean that? What connection would there be to that? Jay says on Twitter people keep saying Bruce doesn't care about the women. I hope that's not true. And where were I? Because the women is actually a big draw. Infamously, Bruce Pritchard is not the best booker of women's wrestling. That said, let's just say Stephanie's leaning on him gently. KJ said Brock won't even want to go into Hall of Fame. We may never see him again if he's gone. Possibility, certainly. He doesn't care less about the Hall of Fame. As a Vince loyalist, there are certainly questions there, but we'll see how it plays out. Kyle says Brian Alvarez did say they have a replacement for SummerSlam and they are trying to get him to come back, which I think points to Goldberg. If it was Goldberg, they wouldn't need to try. They would just say, come back, and he'd be like, yes, yeah, I'll wrestle anyone. I'll do anything. You just, but I want to win. No, I'll do anything. I'll do absolutely anything. I want to squash him. I will do whatever you need me to do. If it lasts more than 20 seconds, I'm out. Standard. Thomas Phipps suggests Bray returns to face Roman. Still very little interest from Bray Wyatt in that. Get the Table says odds Sasha shows up tonight, seeing SmackDown is in Boston. Low, but higher than it was yesterday. Sean says Seth said the next time we see the Shield in WWE is when they're inducted into the Hall of Fame. He's correct. Yep. The Shield is dead in the WWE. There will be no returns to the Shield, primarily because Jon Moxley's not coming back. But Jon Moxley would likely return for a Hall of Fame induction. The Shield are Hall of Fame bound. Ghost says, I don't see a Reigns Riddle Rollins triple threat because of that stipulation of Riddle being unable to challenge for Reigns' titles anymore. Unless that is completely ignored, that probably won't happen. Because the WWE have never completely ignored it before. Thomas says, Roman in the middle of a ring at SummerSlam declaring himself the winner and is about to leave, lights go out and MJF comes out. Not a possibility, MJF is still under contract with AEW. Spider-Boss says 1 month since Raj Giri told WWE release Sasha and still no report that confirms Raj's report. Indeed, and a lot of different journalists have come out and said, well, maybe it's true, but nobody's been willing to confirm it or able to confirm it at this point in time. KJ once again gone by zero news. The backup option maybe Drew. I feel they're just sort of picking names at this point. Here's the hat. Here is the hat of possible replacements. Let's make some exclusive news, shall we? It is Madcap Moss. You don't like that? Alright, let's do another exclusive. Let's do another exclusive and hope no one's read the first one. We'll delete Madcap Moss. You didn't like that. It is Dana Brooke. Didn't get enough views on that. Dana Brooke's not a big enough name. Let's go to this hat, which has slightly bigger names. It is Randy Savage. Well, we got clicks, so let's stick with that one. That's wrestling media right now. Get the Table says, what do you think the biggest change that will happen with the WWE with Vince being gone? Happy backstage? I don't hate to say it. I think the locker room morale will be the biggest change of Vince gone. I think we also may have some actual female storylines that don't involve championships. Spider-Boss says Goldberg recently admitted that he squashed The Fiend because Vince told him to do it. That's not news. He was booked to squash, so he squashed. I don't understand I don't understand why that's news. Basically what he's saying there is, I was booked and I did what I was booked to do. Yeah, we know that. You're a wrestler. You do what Vince tells you. If you're a wrestler in the WWE, Vince says do this, and you say, okay, that's literally your whole job. I don't understand. Get the Table says, does NXT go back to what used to be now that Vince is gone? It does not. NXT 2.0 was not based on Vince McMahon purely. It was based on a cohesive plan from WWE top to bottom. Nick Khan, once again, very involved in this. Also, Kevin Dunn involved in this particular one because they were upset and annoyed that so many people being called up from NXT were not actually settling into the main roster as well as they could have done. So they believed a change in NXT and a change to their use in the main roster would be beneficial for them. And it's worked out with people such as, for example, Boogs. Michael says, higher chance Sasha returns today, so you tell me there's a chance. I know not happening. Well, as long as you know it. KJ believes that R-Truth versus Roman could be money. Don't tempt me. Ghost says, bring back James Ellsworth and make him champ. Well, any man with two hands has a fighting chance. But any man with one hand apparently has no chance in hell. Moxie says, just have Roman come out of SummerSlam, host an open challenge where AJ Styles comes out and wins in 20 minutes. Spider-Boss says, Laurinaitis out for good. Sasha and Naomi won this one. Sasha and Naomi were not involved in this fight. This was the board versus Laurinaitis. JJ says, there's a tweet going around asking who do you think can benefit from WWE going 2v14. I say Rollins, KO, Edge, Becky, Carmella, Charlotte, Ronda. Who do you think, Tom? I think the shareholders will be the ones who benefit from WWE going 2v14. I think we'll get a really intense match between Brock and Roman. And I think after that, we will all forget that it's gone TV14 because why the hell not? And Sean says, I believe Goldberg said he was going to fly out to Saudi and told he was going to lose, but plans changed. Yeah, they may have chosen John Cena versus Bray Wyatt late. We are 17 minutes past the hour. We have peaked at, let's see. We peaked at 153 viewers on YouTube. We peaked at 172 viewers in total between Twitch and YouTube. We are on 58 likes. And I just want to say, before we wrap up, it's been a lot of fun. Now, if you're interested in more, we will discuss this further later on tonight. We have a SmackDown watch along starting at 1 a.m. UK time. That is 8 p.m. US Eastern time. We will talk about it more at that point because there's still plenty more to share. But I do need to get myself a nap in between. I do need to have myself a rest. So let's just wrap up the last few questions and then call it there. Ghost says, considering we're supposed to be celebrating Rey Mysterio at MSG, may just become a Vinnie Mac appreciation night instead. SummerSlam may be more Vinnie Mac appreciation. Rey Mysterio will still be the guest of honor. J Dog says, what I'm fascinated to see is now that Triple H is head of talent relations, do we see eventually he'll aggressively go after AEW free agents? No. Indie talents? Yes. Over promotions, etc.? No. Since Nick Khan's saying they didn't want to bring in indie talent, and the bigger question, will Stephanie go with Triple H with this or Nick Khan? Nick Khan. She'll go with Nick Khan over this. Triple H does not have hiring power. Wrestler Fan says, will Edge still be competing at SummerSlam? Possibly. Nothing confirmed at this point in time. So, until later on tonight, where we will have our SmackDown watch party with the overlay that... There you go. Isn't that lovely? Isn't that lovely? Isn't that lovely? There you go. Until our SmackDown watch party later tonight, I will be wrapping up. Please do remember to subscribe if you haven't already. We do a lot of news here. Spoiler warning, covers a hell of a lot of wrestling news that you don't see anywhere else. So I'd certainly appreciate you coming back for our 10 p.m. UK time or 5 p.m. Eastern time shows on Mondays and Fridays, as well as our SmackDown watch parties. Until then, though, I look forward to seeing you all later. I've been Tom Colohue. You've been fantastic. And I'll see you all very soon. And thank you, Richard Ratliff, for your subscription on YouTube. Thank you very kindly.